moving on, we're going to get back into the level update now with my official topic, and it should come as no surprise that I want to talk about Final Fantasy.
Oh, really?
Really, I do. I do want to talk about Final Fantasy.
That you were interested in Final Fantasy at all?
So we actually got a pretty good info dump this month for Final Fantasy 16 with a teaser website. Now, it's not a ton of information, but I thought it was worth discussing because it is the only information we're going to get for quite a while. Definitely until 2021, and I would bet probably pretty far into 2021 before we get a lot more information about this game. And it also led to some renewed excitement for me. Because the original reveal, as much as I was surprised by it and I was engrossed by it, there were certain things about it that didn't quite click for me. But this teaser site kind of pulled me back in. I want to start off with a message that was posted to the website coming from producer Naoki Yoshida. Now, if you guys don't know who Naoki Yoshida is, he is the guy behind the reboot, really, of Final Fantasy XIV. He saved Square Enix in a lot of ways. And he is now considered like one of their golden gooses at this point. Golden geese at this point. Yeah. So a lot of people, I think, were hoping maybe that he was the director on this. So this is the official confirmation here that he is not the director. He is a producer, saying, quote, "The exclusive footage comprised of both battles and cutscenes running in real time represents but a fraction of what our team has accomplished since the start of development on this, an all-new Final Fantasy game. In that span, the team size has grown from a handful of core members to a full-fledged unit that continues to polish and build upon what they have created so far, all to provide players an experience unmatched in terms of story and gameplay. Our next big information reveal is scheduled for 2021, so in the meantime, I expect everyone to have fun speculating as we have a lot in store, not only for the newest entry in the series, Final Fantasy 16, but also for Final Fantasy 14 too. Needless to say, I'll be working hard on both." So he is still very much involved in that specific title, so not too surprising there that he passed the torch to Hiroshi Takai, directing Final Fantasy 16. So this guy is not that well known, I think, in the mainstream Final Fantasy fan base, but he worked on a last Remnant as director, but he also was sort of like a co-director alongside Yoshida on Final Fantasy 14. He's been working at Square for 30 years. He worked on the Saga series, for example, and he described his position when he was working on Final Fantasy 14 as to work on odds and ends that trouble the developers. He said, quote, "I'm directly in charge of effects and oversee the level team that is in charge of planning the fields and dungeons. But essentially my work is really a bit of everything, kind of a jack of all trades," right? His work began, though, on Final Fantasy 16 in 2015, with Heavensward kind of being his exit from Final Fantasy 14.
Oh my God.
So this guy has a lot of potential. They gave this guy the reins to Final Fantasy 16. They must have a lot of faith in him. A lot of belief in this man. That's exciting.
if you'd play Heaven's Sword, you'd be excited too.
Nice. I have.
Yeah, no.
So let me just real quick check. How interested are you, Tom, in Final Fantasy 16?
I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued with the return. Granted, I haven't played 14. This going back to a more medieval, high fantasy setup. I am interested in the look of this. I am interested in the story for the most part. So yeah, I mean, I'm generally interested in seeing where 16 is going to go, especially now after having played FF7 Remake. Like the Final Fantasy, the itch is starting to come back a little bit for me.
Nice, nice. And I know you're interested, Vince. I was just kind of wanted to gauge that before we went into conversation here. So first off, got really cool key art up on screen right here. This is the first official look at the full key art. And we got our main character, who we will name in a little bit. We're not going to say his name just yet, but we've got Phoenix on the left. We've got Ifrit on the right, and the legacy of the crystals has shaped our history for far too long. Long enough, it says, which I think is a pretty cool tagline right off the bat there. He's an interesting MC for Final Fantasy, I must say. And he's got a little bit of... He's got like a Capcom vibe going on in some ways, which isn't too surprising, as we'll talk about. But I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about his
He looks
design.
like the protag from Drakengard.
Yeah, he's a little edgier than I think maybe I would like. But it's really going to come down to his personality. I'm interested to see if maybe he conflicts with what you might think his personality would be. Kind of in a way, Cloud, right? Cloud is sort of this doofus on the inside, and you don't realize that if you're just looking at him. And I'm wondering what this man is all about. We can see his badass design, but like, what is he all about? We'll have to wait and see on that. We'll get a little more information later on. Let's talk about the world of Final Fantasy 16, because we do have an official name for it now, and I think it's kind of interesting how it comes together. I don't know how to say it necessarily, but Valistea? What would you think, Vince? How do you say that?
Valistea is what I would say. I would have like the th there.
Yeah, right.
I'm on Vince's side there. I think Valistea.
Now this art up on screen here, we've actually had this art for years now. And people always speculated that it would be Final Fantasy 16, and now we know that it is. But what's interesting about Valistea, or Thea, is that it's a merging of two different worlds in a way, if you think about it. Ivalice and Eorzea. So if you take Vali from the Ivalice, and then you take the Aya from the Eorzea, you have Valistea. It almost seems intentional, doesn't it? That it does. Does it mean something? I don't know, but it could mean that this is either spiritual successor, or maybe it actually means that it's like a far future or far past and merging of the worlds. Who knows? But it might just mean like what the theme of this game is, the essence of this game, and who's behind it. But I did think that was kind of interesting when you break it down. So reading off what was on the official website, Valistea is studded with mother crystals, and that's sort of like what gives power and magic to this whole world. Aether, I think, is what they call in this game, magics. So great powers have grown up around each mother crystal, and an uneasy peace has long reigned between them. So there's mother crystals spread throughout the world, and nations sort of attach themselves to these mother crystals. And that's something that's really cool about this game. Icons are the summons, the espers, the Aeons, of Final Fantasy 16. And they're the most powerful and deadly creatures in the world. Each resides within a dominance. And you might have gotten this from the trailer. So a dominance is somebody that sort of possesses the power and can actually transform into an icon. At least that's the way I read it based on the trailer.
Right.
That's what it seems like to me. They can call upon that power and transform. But on top of that, they can also gift that power, from what I understand. And we'll get that a little bit more later on when we talk about our MC.
So it's one for all from My Hero Academia. I got you.
Right. It definitely is a little bit derivative, right, of a lot of different things. That's without a doubt. It definitely calls upon even like a Song of Ice and Fire, I think, for a lot of people. Especially when we when we zoom in on all these different kingdoms. First off, you've got the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. Long ago, a group of small independent provinces in western Valistea found strength and unity and formed the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. After years of relative prosperity, the duchy now finds itself threatened by the spread of the Blight. So this reminds me of Geostigma, actually. I almost wonder if the Mother Crystals are fighting back against humanity and are poisoning them from inside out, from within the world. And that's why the tagline of the game is like the rule of the crystals must come to an end. It's almost like the point of the game is to fight against the mother crystals. I wonder. That's just speculation on my part.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more different. I actually think it's going to be much more about worlds colliding in the sense, and it's part of that whole thing with the. I'm going to assume there's going to be a cost for a dominant to summon an icon because of the magical aether that's being used and everything like that. And that's probably what's happening is you're draining up all the natural energy and you're just doing that over and over again. That's what's happening is this other thing is coming by. That's what I'm going to assume. So it's cool. There's two different viewpoints there.
So you can see based off the banner, that's Phoenix. And you can even see it says, the Dominant of Phoenix, Icon of Fire, is enthroned. That's the Mother Crystal of Drake's Breath that is close to Rosaria. That's their Mother Crystal. So you can kind of get a vibe here. With Sembrek, or however you say the Holy Empire, that one is redacted. You actually don't get to see what the Dominant of that Holy Empire is. But their Mother Crystal is Drake's head. So again, it's kind of cool. I like that like each kingdom has its Mother Crystal for the most part. Each kingdom has its icon and its dominance. And if you look at the banner, what do you think? Who's the dominant? Who's the icon of this Holy Empire, you think, Vince? I'm gonna guess Shiva.
Looks a lot like Shiva.
I was gonna say Shiva. There was one more that came to my mind, but
the dragons down there could be reminiscent of Bahamut, but I don't know.
Yeah, I can't.
I'd say
sorry,
they look more closer to Leviathan.
Oh, yeah, Leviathan. I was gonna say, I forgot it. Never mind. I can't keep up with it.
So abundant
Sorry.
ether in this region. Sounds like they're happy. They're wealthy in ether, and they worship the Holy Emperor as like a true deity. So there's also a lot of religion and stuff involved in this, as we'll get to a little bit later on. The kingdom of Walawed, again, I could be butchering this. Another redacted dominance, claims the entirety of Ash. The kingdom's control of the continent has often been tested by the orcs and other beastmen who make their home there. Kingdom's Mother Crystal, again, we got another one. Drake's Spine is this one. That is clearly Odin. Without a doubt. That is Odin. It's got the 6 legs of Sleipnir. There's no, I feel like there's no doubting that one. The only other one you might be able to say is Ixion from Final Fantasy X, which would be kind of like a deep cut. But I'm going to go out on not even a limb here and say, yeah, we've got Odin, which is awesome because Odin is one of the most badass summons in Final Fantasy, in my opinion. Moving on to another one. I found this one of the most interesting, so I'm going to read this one off. The Dhalmekian Republic. Dhalmekian Republic is made up of 5 states from which the members of its ruling parliament are drawn. Its mother crystal, Drake's Fang, is half hidden in the heart of the mountain range, the Republic's control over it, and its aether securing the obedience of the large part of southern Valistea. The dominant of Titan, which we saw in the trailer, icon of Earth, is installed as a special advisor to the to Parliament and has a significant say in its decision making. I think this is the woman who's smoking. I think she's talking to maybe the Duke in that scene, talking to Parliament. She's the advisor. She's got the yellow polish on her fingers, nails, which is kind of, you know, the color of Titan. So I think that she is the dominance of this, and she actually is saying in that scene that she's not going to offer her help to them. They want her to help as Titan, and she's saying, the army of the Republic has got you covered. You don't need me. So I'm pretty sure that she is the dominant of that region, if I had to read into it. This one is also fascinating to me, and I think maybe gets me more excited than anything else. Iron Kingdom. A small group of islands off the coast of Storm, the western half of Valistea's twin realms. Here, the crystalline orthodox and extreme faith that worships crystals reigns supreme, so very religious. The Iron Kingdom controls Drake's breath, which another one did as well. So there's a fight here over a crystal that is sort of centralized between 2 kingdoms. The mother crystal that sits at the heart of one of their islands, long a source of contention with neighboring Rosaria, which was Phoenix. So considering what happened in the trailer at the beginning, is that something to do with the Iron Kingdom going against Rosaria? We'll have to wait and see. Isolated and aloof from the mainline nations, the Ironbloods speak their own language. Orthodox doctrine judges dominance to be unholy abominations, and any unlucky enough to be born on the island are executed. So if they find somebody that is imbued with the power of the icon, a dominant, they murder that person. They execute them. So religious fanatics, potentially, from the Iron Kingdom. And then finally, the Crystalline Dominion. That right off the bat makes me think Shiva, but as I said earlier, maybe Shiva was a part of the other kingdom that we were looking at. This mother's crystal is Drake's tail. We don't have, I don't think, an icon represented here. No dominant makes their home here, it says. So that one's kind of interesting. But if I had to guess, based off the Crystalline Dominion, like the naming convention there, the artwork that we're about to see here, that's got to be it, right? Look at that those huge crystals there. Really beautiful artwork. This is what is getting me back on board with Final Fantasy 16, right? Because that trailer, if I was concerned about anything, was how muted it was in color. That I didn't feel a lot of magic and fantasy. But when you look at this, yeah, like that's Final Fantasy right there. Like look at those huge crystals overlooming this sort of Alticia-like city, from Final Fantasy 15. Very inspired by maybe Venice or something like that. Beautiful artwork there. Gets me very, very hyped. And I think we had another one coming up after this. We might be getting into the characters now at this point. Let's see.
Yeah.
We're getting into our characters. So there you go. We finally know the name of that badass warrior. And it is Clive Rossfield. Very kind of, it's not what you would expect for a Final Fantasy game though, right?
Yeah. I like it.
Not what I would expect. I'm not against it. Just not what I was expecting. So you can see
he sounds a lot more like he's a Resident Evil character as opposed to being a Final Fantasy character.
Chris Redfield, Clive Rossfield, and that's going to continue with the next character as well. But Clive, main character over the course of a lot of years. You can see he looks young here because the game has a huge time jump in it. He is the firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria. Though all expected him to inherit the Phoenix Flames and awaken as its dominant, Destiny chose his younger brother Joshua to bear this burden. In search of a role of his own, Clive dedicated himself to mastering the blade. His practice pays off when at just 15 years of age, which is what he is there, he wins the ducal tournament and is dubbed the first shield of Rosaria, tasked to guard the Phoenix and blessed with the ability to wield a part of its fire. So that's what I was talking about earlier, where a dominant can bless somebody with the power. Now, we saw in the gameplay in this game, he is using multiple powers, not just Phoenix. I think I saw Ifrit in there. I think I saw Titan in there. So how is that going to work? That's like, is he going to travel the world, go from kingdom to kingdom, and somehow be blessed with the power of these dominants? Or is he going to kill the dominants?
Like, is what he is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you know, what 10 years in the future, once that time jump happens, and he wants his revenge, as we'll talk about, maybe that's what like the traversal of this game is. You're going from kingdom to kingdom. And getting these powers. My big question is this open world? Are we using airships? Are we using chocobos? Or is it, hey, I'm just going to choose, or it's going to do like a time lapse and it's going to jump forward and now we're in this kingdom and we didn't see the traversal. I hope that we have that feeling of a big world, a big journey where he's traveling from kingdom to kingdom, you know? What do you think, Vince?
I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, the trailer actually kind of points that too. He's not part of a kingdom or anything like that. He's like part of some group that's actually like a bounty hunter. I mean, like they're going after the one dominant. I forget in the trailer now which one it is now. I think they're actually going after the one Shiva dominant actually. And they actually gave a hint there that it was like only the girl, you know, I think is what they said. So I think we're going to see him really travel. I mean, that's the thing that's really got me most excited about him, too, is that you see that first part of his trailer where he's just like, you know, yeah, I'm this person, I protect my brother, this and that, you know. And then you see that very last shot where he's like, I'm going to kill you if it's the last thing I do. Yeah. You know, it's exciting. I'm very, I mean, his character I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, I'm questioning if it's going to be just like a one-time time jump, like 10 years later, or if we're going to see him grow older. That's another thing. Moving on to the next character, as we already talked about, Joshua, who is his younger brother, but was blessed with the power of the Phoenix, becoming the dominant at birth. Despite his noble upbringing, Joshua treats all his father's subjects with warmth and affection, none more so than Clive, his older brother, whom he deeply admires. Joshua often laments that he was the frail and bookish younger son chosen, granted the command of the Firebird's flames, and not his stronger, braver brother. While Clive will gladly throw himself into any danger, Joshua quails at the sight of a carrot on his dinner plate. It's a weird thing to include in here. But carrots become the least of his concern when he, too, is swept up into the tragic events that changed Clive's life forever. I have to say, there's got to be a reason they put that in there, his fear of carrots. Right?
I mean, it's going to be a comedy bit, probably.
It's going to be a comedy bit. But here's my thing that I got interested about this, too. It says, but carrots become the least of his concern when he, too, is swept up in the tragic events that changed Clive's life forever. To me, it sounds like he's not living past the prologue.
That's the big question. That is the question. You see in the trailer Ifrit literally like tearing at Phoenix. It seems like Clive yelling, wake up, like to his younger brother, trying to get him to wake up. So yes, does Ifrit kill Phoenix and by result kill Joshua at the beginning of this journey, and that is what sets off the revenge tale? That would be a little bit surprising because there's only 3 characters that have been revealed now, and it almost feels like these are the main characters. So do we not have a party here? And if we do have a party, is Joshua leaving in the first couple hours? We got one more character to talk about, and her name is Jill Warwick. Chris Redfield, Clive Roswell, Jill Warwick. What's going on here?
Josh and Jill went down the hill.
Yeah. Born in the fallen Northern Territories, Jill was taken from her homeland at a tender age to become a ward of Rosaria, securing peace between the two warring nations. The Archduke insisted that she be raised alongside his sons, and now at 12 years of age, she is very much a part of the Rossfield household as Clive and Joshua. She's almost like the Jon Snow. Ever kind, gracious, and unassuming, Jill has become a trusted confidant to the brothers. I'm going to go out on a limb and say right now, I think that she is Shiva's dominant.
Yeah, you and I are reading the same mind, and I actually think that's going to be like the big main like thing that's going to be really tragic.
Right, that she's maybe she's even like a dark icon, because that's the question as well. How many icons are in this game? We know that Phoenix is an icon of fire, but then they bring up that, oh my god, wait, there's another icon of fire, the dark icon of Ifrit. What if there is a light and dark icon to all dominance? So that would provide potentially 12 icons throughout the game. And what if Shiva is like a dark icon, and she has been imbued with this power, and as a result is actually an enemy? Sort of like a Shakespearean tragedy type thing going on here. Maybe Clive loves her but is forced to kill her or something like that. We're getting really, crazy here. But
here's the thing. You're not far off the mark, because that's actually a lot what Heaven's Sword dealt with. Like, that's what's exciting about this whole thing is, if this is going to be the same kind of like almost assistant director and the same type of crew who's been working on that, no, I mean, this will play out in a very dramatic and very interesting way multiple times. Because one thing that I appreciate about Final Fantasy XIV, they only do it with one character. One character kind of has like a plot armor, but there's characters that they just will kill off right on screen. Say, yeah, no, they're done. You're going to be like, I like that person. What are you doing? Like, they do that. It's crazy.
Very Song of Ice and Fire, which I think is a little bit reductive. Like, I don't think we should simplify it to that, but I do feel like there might be some inspiration there, especially considering what I've read is that his name is, I think, Hiroshi Takai, right? That he's a very big fan of Game of Thrones. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did take some influences there and incorporated them into this. But that about wraps it up as far as the information on the site. I'm much more interested in this game now than I originally was with that reveal trailer. I like a lot of what's going on here. I do hope we have a party of characters and it's not just Clive the entire game. And I actually do hope that Joshua's story doesn't end very early. I don't want him to just die and fall out of the story in the prologue or something like that. But there's a lot of teases here, a lot of great questions being raised, and the fact that I am sort of already speculating on how this all could turn out means that I am becoming engrossed and involved in the storyline and the narrative before even knowing very much. So off to a great start, I have to say. I'm excited for Final Fantasy 16. Hope you guys are as well.